It's time for Screen Junkies Movie Fights.
Oh, what in the world? Welcome to Movie Fights, hashtag Movie Fights Live. We are doing it. It is coming at you. We are going to fight about movies. We've got the questions all lined up with some awesome fighters. First, let me give a shout out to Owl Nation. Hoot, hoot. Hashtag Owl Nation. Percival is in the house. Like I said, we've got some awesome fighters. Let's meet our combatants. First up, you know him from the Nerdificent podcast. He is one of the biggest Dragon Ball Z heads I've ever met. Oh, hell yeah. Welcome back to the party, our friend Iffy NWADIWE.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, Dragon Ball Z heads, we call each other the Ball Boys.
The Ball Boys.
We get them balls. You know, that's what we do.
All about it.
This chair keeps sinking, so if you keep seeing me jump up throughout this, that's what's going on. Like, I'm getting lower now, but you know, it's all good.
You know what? For once in my life, I feel a little bit more stout than Iffy. I feel a little bit...
I'm dipping, you know?
Well, let's not forget also a GQ model.
Oh, yeah, GQ Italia. They
oh, yes.
And look, what can I say? I got style. I've been telling y'all. Glad y'all can finally catch up. You know?
Oh, yeah. You can see you can see him at the cons. You can see him on the runways. Iffy NWADIWE, glad to have you back, buddy. Good luck with that chair for the rest of the time.
How short it is when it's the two cameras, just the two of you.
Every time you come back, I'm just smaller. Every time. I'm just writing it out. I don't even care.
Thank you, Lil, if you want.
I'm a rider.
We gotta get puppet legs.
It doesn't even matter.
OMG, we're already off the rails. Second, he's become a formidable fighter. He's a fan favorite, from all over the internet. And right here, Cameron Rice. Cameron, welcome back to the party.
Hello, thank you for having me. Apparently, I might owe you an apology, Hal.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I was giving you a hard time. You just made a comment about, me being old on one of the shows. But I got to look it up. If anyone can find that.
I don't recall doing this.
It was a few weeks ago when I was hosting. But you know what? I'm just upset I wasn't here to say I resemble that remark. But Cameron, always
That's
great.
Good. I caught that pun. It was great.
Right
I like it.
on, Cameron. Sure. It's always great to have you, buddy.
I'm done fighting it.
And last but not least, you know her from DC Daily, Nerdist Collider. It's MARKEIA MCCARTY.
Yeah.
Welcome to the party, MCCARTY.
Thank you. It feels good to be back, especially when I found out I was going up against these two. I was just like, this is gonna be so serious, so serious, such a serious.
Prepare for the
fight.
action. We're about to get it popping.
Yes.
I know. We got some serious nerds, but who also like to goof around. So I'm excited for this one. And deciding the festivities is going to be a combination of myself and the Dans on the Dan Cam. Dan Murrell, Danielle Radford. Dan Murrell, what's going on, my friend?
You know, I was just reading about how Critical Role got $6 million on their Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I'm starting one for $60 to get an effing chair that doesn't sink. It's been 4 years with that stupid chair. $6 for a bolt to put in the chair so it doesn't
I
sink.
know, and it's sometimes it's embarrassing. Like our friend Iffy, or we're interviewing the damn Russo brothers about.
You can see Anthony Russo slowly disappearing behind the news desk. It's not a good look for us.
Joe Russo.
There's construction going on. There's hammers and saws going through it. We need help.
Yeah, true story. Dan, thank you for expressing our pain about this chair. And we have our friend, our social media chair, the voice of the people, Danielle Radford.
Hello. So yeah, the way this works is anytime there's a tie or just an undecided vote, we will go to the poll on YouTube. Lots of great polls. The poll on YouTube is the only one that counts. And now those will go up once everyone's given their initial arguments, because we want to make sure it's about the arguments and not about which answer you like more before you hear them. If you have any questions about the poll or how it works, click in the description or ask someone in the chat. I'm sure someone can help you out. Also, I will be looking for responses on Movie Fights Live, hashtag Movie Fights Live on Twitter. So if you post something in there and I like it, I might shout you out on the show.
Oh, heck yes. And, we're looking for, your answers to the questions and, stupid memes, just dank, dumb memes.
Keep them dank.
Keep them dank. Oh, and also, if you were wondering, if it really was in GQ Italia, you can find that online.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just go look up Ivy, and then the conversation he had with his friend group about it.
Oh, yeah. No, everyone was mad, but I came out on top.
Nice. Just a quick refresher as to how our game works. The first person to score 4 points will walk out of here the winner. There are 3 regular rounds, and the top 2 performers from those first 3 rounds will move on to the speed round, where it's anybody's ball game. Someone can be up by 3, and the person who's down can make a furious comeback in the speed round. You want to have some movie fights fun?
Yeah.
JT, drop that sick-ass package.
Prepare to die.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe is there duct tape? Duct tape fixes everything. You duct tape.
You know what? It's just my character. Episode, I'm fine with it.
I like fighting against a microphone.
Thank you, Thor. All right. Question number 1. So Captain Marvel, singular, hits theaters this weekend. I'm going to see it tomorrow night. If it's going to be revealed that one member of the MCU cast has been a Skrull all along, who should it be? Who should be the Skrull in our midst? And we're going to start with player number 1, Iffy.
I'm going to go with Hawkeye, because I feel like, you know, he's been around, he's been present, and the fans are actually a little bit attached to him in a way that will kind of bamboozle people, and it will kind of make sense in ways, because, you know, him being gone during all the events that went down and him popping back up and him coming and going, it's like, oh yeah, no, I can see you're up to no good. You're keeping an eye on people, and that's when you were gone, you were reporting to the Skrulls.
Right on. Yeah, where was he all that time? Maybe reporting to the Skrulls. Thank you, Iffy. Cameron, who you got?
I decided to go with an option that would shake the foundation of the MCU. Would leave fans shook. I'm going with Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, along with Ivy. I think this also explains quite a lot of things, especially her consistently changing looks from film to film, why she's always looking different, and why was she so willing to give up S.H.I.E.L.D. information at the end of Winter Soldier? Because she's not actually Black Widow, she's a Skrull, and it also gives Marvel a backdoor to be like, we couldn't make her own movie because it hasn't been her.
That's an interesting take at the end there. Cameron, thank you. Markeia?
I went with Agent Phil Coulson because it makes a lot of sense for him to because the whole thing about Skrulls is infiltration. So you want someone that will rise through the ranks into a powerful position. So Phil Coulson is the best possible person for that, because not only do you have somebody that's in with the Avengers and is trusted by them, but they're also in with S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, this is a perfect fit. This is like a DNA match, just like a Skrull.
Wow. All right. Fight it out, you guys.
Ooh. All right. So for Black Widow, Cameron, she's a human being. She's a woman. We change our look constantly. So that's not something that would be a Skrull-like behavior. And I'm offended that you would say that. But for like, couldn't make a movie about her. That doesn't make any sense. It's like she should.
I'm not
have
saying it doesn't make sense in story. I'm talking about Marvel. Marvel now has the reason to be like, we didn't do it for 10 years because we had this plan. She's a Skrull.
We got my man Cam bootlicking for Marvel. This man's vying for the job.
Look at my Mickey shirt, baby. Give me $1 billion and I'll sell you anything.
Yeah, that's cool. The thing with Coulson, though, it would feel too easy and cheap. With a Skrull reveal, it has to be like, I remember opening Secret Invasion and being like, yo, all of them are Skrulls? And that's what you want to convey. And that's why I think someone like Hawkeye, because I feel like Black Widow, she'd been there just a little bit too much, and then she has that thing with Hulk, so he was like, Hulk was smashing and couldn't tell. So then Hulk would have to
That's how good the Skrulls are.
Hulk would have to be a Skrull as well.
Smash don't matter. Smash don't matter for Hulk.
Hulk smash. That's basic his line.
Hulk is not the smartest in the room. Hulk is the strongest.
Because he'd be like, she's green, he would have snitched her out.
No, he wouldn't have cared.
Someone like Hawkeye, who has a fake family, you know, this man is basically he's either Jamaican or Nigerian, because he got a secret family and he's over there hiding them. That's Skrull activity right there. That's what I would like. We reveal his family, and they all Skrulls, and we like, dang, That's
I don't
why
think
he's
anybody's gonna be like, dang, you both pick people who have like barely been players on the board. Your guy's been off the board. He's been off the board. He's been off the board since phase 1. He ain't done nothing in none of those movies. What's it gonna be? It's like Real Coulson's gonna come back. He's like, what's Iron Man 3? Thor the Dark what? He's been dead. Forget the TV shows. No, they ain't put no one in those TV shows. No one from those shows is being in nothing.
You cannot say
Oh
forget
yeah,
the
Jeff
TV
Logan,
shows.
but Kevin Feige do not get along. No, it does not matter. It don't matter.
I haven't
And
forgot
Hawkeye's
about
been
you.
in 2 movies.
Hawkeye.
Nobody's shook by this.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they would be
Nobody's
shook because it's like that's where he been because he is a part. Coulson is like, yeah, get out of here. Who are you? You're
No,
the
he
accountant.
isn't.
Watch the over talking, guys. Keep it going. Keep it going.
He's exactly what Coulson is exactly what a Skrull should be. A Skrull is somebody that is supposed to be infiltrating into the system, collecting the information, and turning the narrative. That is what Skrulls
That's
do,
what a
and
good
that is
Skrull
what
would
Phil
be,
Coulson
but
does.
what
And he has not only done that in the MCU, but he has been able to do that in the MCU
That is
TV.
great, but
So
what we're trying to do
Hawkeye,
is we're
you
trying
keep
to
on
build
saying
into
that-
Secret Invasion. And what Secret Invasion was all about as a crossover event is fucking the minds of all the fans. Everyone you loved has been a Skrull. Coulson would be like, I could have guessed. I mean, yeah, the balding guy, yeah, Skrull activity. And with Black Widow, it's like, yeah, we never trusted you. But with Hawkeye, we like, we love you, and we wanted
We
you
do
in those
not
movies.
love Hawkeye. Who loves
Which is
Hawkeye?
secret Nigerian Skrull family.
That's called good storytelling.
Hawkeye's
We
like,
love them.
that's what I'm talking about.
They're not who we thought.
Bottom of the tree, you know, the low-hanging fruit to have the low-hanging fruit to have
Everything he's
Hawkeye.
describing right now is cliche, not a good
It
story
doesn't make a
point.
big enough impact for Hawkeye.
Yeah, look.
Your boy has not been in a movie in
then
4
plus-
years.
That's good
And then plus
because he's
think
been
about
with
this.
his family. I told you, eating
I
moi.
agree.
Think about the skill sets for things too. It's like it makes more sense for Coulson and Black Widow to be a Skrull than it does for Hawkeye.
does make sense for Black
because of
Widow
the
to be a
skill
Skrull.
sets. But it makes even more sense for Coulson because he's a government agent.
Y'all
This is exactly
are
this is like a
describing
sleeper
why
cell.
it would be a good choice. I'm describing why it would be a good movie because everyone has doubted Hawkeye. So when you see Skrull Hawkeye,
You
and
just
he's like,
said that
y'all
everybody
think-
was attached to him. You just said that everybody
yeah,
had all the
That's
love
why it
for
would be a
him.
good
But
movie.
you're saying
Everything,
people are doubting him
everyone's
now.
attached to him, and we get to show how badass Hawkeye actually is when he comes back and is like, y'all doubted me, y'all thought I was weak. Check out this Skrull action. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, you see this?
How much purple is he wearing?
All of it. And when you see that big Skrull chin in that purple action, you like, damn, is that Thanos? Nah, man, it's a damn Skrull.
And your whole thing with Black Widow giving up the information, that proves that she's not a good Skrull. Skrulls don't give that up because it does not help them. If anything,
Oh no, it
that
makes
made
people
her,
distrust
that
the
made her
government.
butt heads.
It makes people distrust the
A
government.
Skrull
Distrust
is
Shield.
not going to choose to be
Too much
registration.
sense, Markeia. If movies were
registration.
made the way you were talking about, they would have flew the eagle to Mordor and dropped the ring in there.
Don't
That's how you
with
make
that.
sense.
Yeah, don't get that started.
Don't bring
That's
that
when
up.
stuff makes sense,
That's
okay?
not a thing
But
to
with
bring up.
storytelling, we play with things and we make things that don't make sense come together in a way to make something
It would
beautiful
make
and exciting to
Coulson-
watch.
Coulson's already a really
ending.
great character.
A good ending is an ending that makes you go, of course. Black Widow being a Skrull makes everyone go, of course.
No,
Why from movie to movie?
we'd be
She's
like,
changing her
why
look.
let us
Movie to
trust her
movie.
more?
Who is she really siding with? What's really happening?
Markeia in this light, you keep saying she changing. After every breakup, a woman changes her hair color. That's just
Why
how
she
it works.
breaking up with
That's
everybody?
because
she's a Skrull. She ain't
because
really
that's
the
how
Black
it works.
Widow.
That is so not what Skrulls are.
Oh
What
yeah.
are you talking about?
Guess what? If you go see Captain Marvel, what Skrulls are in that movie ain't what the Skrulls are in the comics.
I did
man.
see Captain Marvel, and it that's a nuance of the Skrull-Kree relationship.
Okay,
I'm
now
telling
we're
you, but
bringing
with
nuance
this,
in here. I don't know about all
what
that.
Skrulls
All I
are.
know is
They're like
my man in
sleeper
a purple
Well, I want to know
big
the
chunky
why of it.
chin.
Why Hawkeye? Why Hawkeye?
Why Hawkeye?
You know what? If he let's shift gears, go ahead and make this your final thoughts. Okay.
The reason I say why Hawkeye is because you want to kind of blindside your audience. We don't trust Black Widow, and that's the fun with her, because you're not supposed to trust a spy character. But if she's a Skrull, then it's like, yeah, duh, that's why we never trusted her. You're going to lead into the audience's intuitions. Coulson, we already talked, well, we all agree, he's off the board, man. What, you're going to tie in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show?
After
with
6
the
seasons?
women? Yeah, no, we can't do that. Hawkeye, the fans want more Hawkeye. And the fans want Hawkeye to be respected because Hawkeye is us, the little guy without powers, cheering on the rest of the Avengers. And when we get to see him be badass, we get to feel badass. Hawkeye for president 2020.
Whoa.
Ronan or
Took an
Hawkeye?
interesting turn.
Don't get me started.
Iffy, thank you for that, sir. Cameron, what do you got? Final thoughts.
Coulson off the board. You can't tie in 6 seasons of a television show. Hawkeye has not been present for like 4 years now. When was Civil War? 3-4 years ago? Guy has not been present. I feel like, especially after this movie, and we got to think about what's the next thing that happens after Infinity? What happens after you have killed half, not just of the Avengers, half the universe? What's the next thing? How do you keep building? I think you got to shake that foundation. You got to shake the bedrock. You do that by going, this character who has been in every movie pretty much, actually a Skrull. That's why Tony Stark couldn't trust her. That's why Steve Rogers couldn't trust her. That's why everyone couldn't trust her. I hear what you're saying. It's like, oh, well, you're playing into the audience expectation. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes playing with the audience's expectation of what they think is going to happen, that's how you get some great motion pictures.
Great
All right.
Should he be disqualified for calling them motion pictures?
Talkies? Were they talkies?
$1 billion, Disney, come get me.
Thank you, Cameron. MARKEIA MCCARTY, your final thoughts.
Okay, so the whole point of a Skrull is to be able to be in a position of power, to be able to turn the narrative, to be able to help the Skrull nation and help the infiltration of Earth. That is the whole point of the whole the Skrull thing. So with Hawkeye, it doesn't make sense because he's not really in a position of power, and this whole attached to him thing, people actually feel a little bit betrayed of Hawkeye and it to be a Skrull, but not betrayed in the good way, betrayed in the, oh, really, that one? Okay, I guess, kind of a way. And with Black Widow, can't be a Skrull. She's just way too antagonistic. A Skrull would not be a character that would keep on putting itself into the limelight like Black Widow does. And she puts herself into all of these different. It's a bit too on the nose, and it's not Skrull-like behavior. While with Coulson, you have Coulson be the Skrull. You've had this person that has been popping up in these little ways, in like Thor and everything, and like the Avengers. Like the original one, and you had like, oh no, he's dead. Oh no, Nick Fury brought him back. It took an act of God, that kind of thing that they said. So you have Coulson be a Skrull. Not only do you affect the MCU, but you affect the MCU TV by doing that. When he came back in season 5, and they're like, oh, how are you doing? How are you? And he's like, I don't remember a lot of things. Why? Because they had to take back out the Skrull stuff to even put more Phil Coulson stuff back in. And then going into season 6, it makes sense to have him continue as a Skrull because you saw it in Endgame.
Time. All right. Wow. 3 different characters, points of view, arguments, good stuff. Dan Murrell, what do we got in the fact zone?
Well, when it comes to Lord of the Rings, I'm going to repeat to Iffy what's been yelled at me in 1,000 comment sections, that the Eagles are a proud race, which is what I am told every time I ask why the Eagles don't fly the hobbits to Mount Doom. I'm told
They too good. They too good.
the Eagles are a proud race.
Yeah, they too good. They're not carrying his water.
Exactly. So
Gandalf got one favor.
Hawkeye has been off the board for about, we should say he was last seen in Civil War, which was about 2 years since from Infinity War. So not on screen directly in about 2 years of MCU time. That's what we're looking at. I know there was some question about how long he'd been gone. A couple years, at least on screen.
It's a long time to
Great.
miss out on that intelligence.
Thank you, sir. All right, I really was feeling all 3 of these arguments at different times. Cameron, what you were like, but some of the stuff you were backing up your Black Widow argument with, like as far as her changing her look and all that stuff. I mean, she's not the only one. Captain America, how many different suits has he had? Some movies he's bearded,
3.
some movies he's beardless. So I don't know, like that, and that was such a huge part of your that was brought up so many times.
Oh, yeah.
So that started to eat away at the Black Widow
Lady
argument
Gaga
for me.
also a Skrull.
Oh my gosh. What about Allie from Star is Born, a Skrull as well? So it came down to MARKEIA and Iffy for me, and MARKEIA, you started to really come on at the end with incorporating some of the stuff from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but overall, I feel like Iffy's timeline and Iffy's just thoughts about the whereabouts of Hawkeye with his potentially fake family, and that was really, that really intrigued me, and it just got me on the Hawkeye train, so I'm going Iffy. Dan Murrell.
I would have to agree that while Skrulls are known for being shapeshifters, that seemed to be all I was getting from Cameron's argument, and I felt like Iffy and Markeia both had a little bit more of a fleshed out reasoning behind why they picked certain things to be Skrulls. And I thought that I liked both angles. I liked the Coulson memory angle. I also liked the Hawkeye angle. And ultimately, I think if I was trying to decide which one would I think would be like the best scenario and the one that I would believe the most, I could honestly believe that Hawkeye was a secret Skrull with a secret Skrull family. That's why we'd never seen them before Age of Ultron, and that's where they were this whole time. So
You are hiding a child.
I have to go with Hawkeye's secret Skrull family and Iffy.
Bam! Iffy gets the point. That means Linda Cardellini is also a Skrull. Danielle,
Yes,
what?
That's true.
Yeah. Danielle, what did the poll say about this one?
Well, with 49% Hawkeye and his secret family, with 33% Agent Coulson, 17% Black Widow. Some really good things on the hashtag. I really like this one from College Movie Man, who said, "Oh my God, Sharon Carter is a Skrull. Convenient, no one knew she was Peggy's niece, and Peggy was suffering from dementia and could neither confirm nor deny the perfect alibi."
Ooh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's
I like
spicy.
that one.
Interesting
All right.
theory.
That's
All
You're
right,
on
good
the D's
arguments.
list for me, college movie guy.
Indeed. Good arguments all around. No mugwumps in the bunch, but Iffy takes the point. Cameron and Markeia looking to get on the board. Let's go to question number 2. Benji, I hope you heard my shout out. Okay. Here it is. Captain Marvel. It's set in the 1990s. What other franchise should do a throwback 90s prequel? All right. Hey, the 90s are cool again, you guys. What other franchise should do a throwback 90s prequel? Question 2. Start with player 2. Cameron.
So with this one, I actually tried to think about a movie where being in the 90s was actually going to be an intrinsic part of the story and not just a way for simple throwaway gags, like someone mentioning Jim Carrey being popular or some TV shows and things like that. And that's how you know it's in the 90s. I tried to think of a movie or franchise that it could actually help the story. I picked Happy Death Day. Because if no one's seen Happy Death Day 1 and 2, it's the Groundhog's Day idea with a serial killer, but there's also this continuous storyline with the character Tree, her mother had passed away. It plays a big part in the second film about Tree having to go to an alternate timeline and finding her mother still alive. And that becomes a big part of the second film. To me, I think the third film, to continue to make this like a full trilogy and to continue pushing. Because again, Happy Death Day 2 was sort of playing with some Back to the Future stuff. My mindset is go full Back to the Future, throw Tree back into the 90s, and she meets her mother young in her normal timeline. And so again, rather than offering the question of you can stay in a different universe with your mom still alive, it's here's a timeline with your mother still alive at your age. You're still playing with some of the slasher killer babyface stuff. You're continuing on with the time universe stuff that Happy Death Day has been doing, and continuing on from 1 to 2, you're making like a totally new, different kind of movie rather than a rehash of the first one.
Interesting stuff. Thank you, Cameron. Markeia.
Okay, I went with, for what I was looking for with this is that I love it when prequels go seamlessly into like the first movie and actually stimulate your ability to want to watch the rest of that franchise again. So I went with 28 Days Later, and the title of the film will be 28 Hours Later, obviously because the third film is called, 28...
Weeks.
28 weeks later, thank you. So with this, the setup would be that it would be in one of the suburbs of Cambridge, since the beginning of 28 Days Later starts in the University of Cambridge, specifically where they're the primate division. And you have 90s British suburbia. And so you're invested into that, and you're like, oh, so it's like us as Americans, we see parts of our America, like over there, because 90s was pretty big everywhere, American 90s. So we see that. And then actually the journey would be the researcher that you see at the beginning of 28 Days Later. You have him as the older brother giving a gift of a monkey to his younger brother. And you're like, oh, that's cute. Oh, no, it's the monkey thing. And then you cut to that 28 hours later, and you have the rampant running through the streets. And you're thinking, oh, why would he do give this rage monkey to? And it's like, no, it turns out it doesn't like that. there's a twist, and I'll get to that in my final argument.
Oh, okay.
All right,
You're saving the twist.
A monkey's a,
cliffhanger?
so
a
we
monkey's
can't
a pretty
debate it?
damn good gift, by the way.
It's a great gift.
I want
In
someone-
90s, having a monkey, that's kind of
Yeah, I wish someone give me a monkey as a gift. Jeez.
A rage monkey.
Well, not that kind.
not a
Iffy, what do you got?
Hey, so yeah, this was such a fun question. Everyone's like answers were super fun and well thought out, and it really does kind of fall into like your taste for stuff. And genuinely, like I think what really is hitting for Captain Marvel and like other movies that take place in like set time periods is really kind of just giving into the world. And I think Cam was right. You don't want to go for the cheap jokes. You want to kind of live in it. You want to explore it. But also, I think as a movie, it's good to kind of like play with it artistically and kind of like dip into maybe a movie that would exist in that time, which is why I'd want, for many reasons, to reboot the X-Men franchise and do a prequel in the 90s. Mostly because the X-Men already is the Breakfast Club. So why not make a full X-Men origin story that is the Breakfast Club? And you already have all the different archetypes, Wolverine, the bad boy, you got Cyclops, the teacher's pet, you got Jean Grey, the star student, Rogue, the goth chick. So why not like fully lean into it and really explore these characters in a new way, recast them, and launch it off? And obviously, I would do the twist in this instead of being like, this mean dude teacher, Storm is the teacher. She's the leader of them all because she should have always been the leader of the X-Men. Why are we even bothering with Cyclops? I know I lost some of y'all, but Storm is the true leader of the X-Men.
Mohawk or no Mohawk?
Yeah.
Well, it'd be 90s.
Well, it's the
so.
90s, so like you got straight up punk teacher. Because my thing too is like when you borrow from a franchise to also kind of add a flair on it. So we don't want to beat for beat Breakfast Club. So we have this like the hot teacher, which is going to be Storm, and you get to see these characters play out, learn to be each other, and it kind of fits right into X-Men because it takes place in a school. Like at the end of the day, the X-Men kind of is the Breakfast Club when you go to its origins and you look at Xavier's Academy for the Gifted. So why not have these new mutants who are all in detention and learning about themselves, their power, maybe their sexuality, and and also who is this old ass Wolverine dude? Like like that would be fun too. Like Wolverine is old as hell.
Listen, I resemble that remark. Okay.
I didn't know I was pointing at you.
Oh my gosh.
I was just doing it in like the effect of like
Time,
this guy.
MARKEIA, you get the point. No, I'm kidding.
I totally meant it like over here. I didn't mean to point. I'm so sorry.
Listen, all good. I love all three of your setups. All right, I love all three of your setups. Let's fight it out, guys.
Oh my gosh.
So I like both these. I guess my question is, why does it have to be in the 90s? What's the 90s of it? Because I know X-Men blew up for us in the 90s, Jim Lee and everything, but X-Men goes back to the 60s, the 70s. Like, what is it about this? Because I love the Breakfast Club idea and I love all that stuff. And beyond like cheap jokes where it's like, what's a cell phone?
Yeah.
Like.
Well, the reason
then
it
I
be in
have
the
a question
90s
after.
is the main reason I want to reboot the sequel is
Yeah.
so it can line right up into the MCU. This is going to lead into the MCU. Why do they existed? And this goes into my big theory that when we break reality with the Infinity Gauntlet, that we're going to reveal that mutants have always existed and have been hidden. But beyond that, like that's why you would take place in the 90s. It actually has strength to it, and kind of ride that out. I don't think it'd be like a no cell phones joke. It really would be living in this world, and it'd be beyond cell phone. Like what was racism in the 90s? Guess what? We're going to mimic that. And I think the best example, if anybody's watching Pin 15, I think they've done the best racism episode on TV because it's not the like we're the KKK in the 90s. It was like we don't know necessarily this thing is making you feel shitty and it's just jokes.
Oh,
And
diet racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like to explore that with like the mutant stuff and to see like the ways that would be implemented, that just is interesting to me because that's kind of been the beauty of X-Men is like it was cool when it first started and we had this heavy-fisted allegory for racism, but let's now use it for a stronger allegory that can influence a younger generation.
I just have to say for like my first inclination, I mean I like this idea, but it's
Yeah.
like my first inclination is like, God, I'm so sick of X-Men X-Men reboots. I'm so tired of them constantly doing this, constantly messing up the timeline, constantly doing that, and it's just. I don't have any faith that it can be done well in the way that you're saying with it. Because like with what they've done with X-Men, what I need from X-Men now that, that's going back under the umbrella of Disney, I need for them to take a big old pause on that. Like just take a big old pause, take a big old step back, because they have Dark Phoenix out and they had to keep on pushing that back.
Which is taking place in
which
1992.
Which is taking place in the 90s already.
And
so
that's true.
It's like they've already touched on this.
That's true. I felt the exact same way.
So
The
kinda
exact
seems
same
like
way
going back
about,
over the same ground, and when they just need to.
I felt the exact same way about Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and then Homecoming came out and then that was the proof in the pudding that then Homecoming came out. I can't do
Civil
that.
Civil War, they tested him with Civil War first,
But
and then
that
saw how
still
the
is a
audience felt.
singular Spider-Man movie that came out and proved that when you do it right, it doesn't. And that's kind of what you would do with this. Is we don't do the origin story over and over again.
I would love to hear a little bit more from you guys about your opinions
I
as well.
I think for me, I love the
Yeah.
28 Days Later series. I love those two films. I think for me, the only issue I have with going back is that, and trying to do 28 hours, is that I feel like what kind of made the 28 Days Later series interesting was a kind of what made The Walking Dead interesting, is you're continuing to see what happens with the outbreak. I
was gonna say the
I
same
think
thing.
going back is just like, okay, this is Night of the Living Dead, but they run. It's still just a suburban town,
No.
closed in, and they're British
Not
instead
at
of in
all.
the South.
If anything, we get to have a lot of nuance when it comes to, because the whole thing about zombie movies is social commentary with what it is, and then having it set, it specifically has to be set in the 90s since the first one came out in 2003. So for this, it's like you get to have that slice of life, that culture that is 90s Britain. You have that suburban life in Britain. We get to see a lot of American stuff, but we get to see that with there. And what it is like, how did the world not know about it? That is part of the thing, where it's like because so many things happen that if it doesn't make it on social media, we don't hear about it. So what is this event that happened, in the suburbs of Cambridge, where it's like it didn't get out, that they managed to contain it. I want to see that happen, because you know what, we haven't had that. We haven't had that on a mainstream scale, and this franchise could make that happen.
What are we going to do about the anachronisms with the next movies? Because we don't
there
really.
Isn't. See, that's the thing. There wouldn't be, because they contained it, and it would be about having this virus
so
run rampant.
I'm sorry, so I'm
they're
confused.
not.
So they stopped 28 days later? They stopped it from
No.
happening? Okay.
For 28 days later to happen, you have to have the rage virus.
Yes.
You have to have
Yes.
that. And the researcher in particular at the beginning of that, they're like, "Hey, why did you infect this monkey with this?" It's like, and he's like, "We didn't, but you have to understand." Or he's like, "We have to infect to understand." And I'll just
cool.
say it
It just
now.
starts to fall apart. And for me,
I worry about that though,
yeah.
because then we're getting into like, how did Logan get his jacket territory?
But my problem with Happy Death Day is now you're putting the hat on the hat. What makes Happy Death Day so amazing is that it's Groundhog's Day, but a horror. So now it's Groundhog's Day and Back to the Future, but it's horror.
Well, that was the second one.
Yeah, that's so.
Which got really good reviews.
Yeah, but the second one is like it's kind of batshit insane. It goes everywhere.
I don't agree. I don't agree that it goes everywhere.
I saw it. It goes everywhere. They had her skydive naked out of something and flick off a camera. It went everywhere.
Yeah, it's comedic.
You know what?
but
I want to
another
shift gears,
day.
Cameron. I want you to respond to this and then roll that right into your final thoughts.
I agree that it's comedic. It has comedic elements. It plays in tone. It's not just a straight horror movie. And I think the second one really works, though, because the grounding of the relationship between her and her mother, and asking that question about what will you do, and actually giving a character a hard choice to make. I think that's why actually the second one really stands on its own beyond just a repeat of the first. And I think pushing it further into the third one, because as we see at the end of the second one, not to spoil anything, but the end of the second one really promises like, hey, this might become a bigger thing. There might be further time travel. If you're going to do that, I think the idea of really wrapping it up, doing a full trilogy. Here's the full story of Tree. I think the idea of putting it in the 90s, she's meeting her mother at a similar age, and maybe the same thing is happening to her mom, and it's Tree who's outside the bubble trying to figure that out. It has to be set in the 90s because that's the age her mother would have been to be going to college. As opposed to the X-Men thing, I love the idea, but it feels like that could be kind of any time. And the 28 Days Later one, again, it feels like, well, that's when it has to connect to 28 Days Later, but that came out in 2003, but this is going to be 1999. It doesn't really feel like...
I didn't give a date.
Well, I guess we're going to find out what the twist is. My thing is, I feel like it intrinsically ties into the trilogy as a whole, pushing the story as opposed to repeating the story.
Thank you, sir. MARKEIA.
Yeah. So with 28 Hours Later, with it, it's going to complete this trilogy, and that's one of the things that I feel like prequels need to do. It needs to have same voice but different story type of a deal. And with like 28 Hours Later, you're going to get not only that slice of life, you're going to follow the story of this researcher, this older brother, in this community, and then like this rage virus that it seems like it comes out of nowhere, and then it actually ends up that it's just a distilled version that it's part of all of us, but it's a distilled version that's gone through this one family, and that the researcher's little brother is the one that actually ends up carrying it, and he's the one that he ends up biting somebody, and then they become like, you know, one of those rage monsters. At the conclusion of it, the older brother ends up getting the monkey that he gave to the younger brother. The younger brother ends up biting it, and then that's how he gets, you know, that encapsulated. He has to go around and kill everybody in the community to keep it like under wraps. When the government comes in and they're like, "What is this?" You'll show them tests and show the monkey, and they're like, "Well, nobody can ever know about this kind of a thing." And then you go into 28 Days Later, where he's a researcher in that primate lab, and you have the PETA people come in, and he's like, "No, you mustn't. You have to kill them right then." And this poor person, you see them like flashing back where they had to kill their own little brother to stop it. But you know, while you're watching this movie, that it's doomed to happen again, and it makes you want to watch 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, and that is what a prequel should do.
Oh, sounds like a fun movie marathon. Thank you, MARKEIA.
Like horror
Round of
metaphorians.
iffy.
All right, so like I said, great points made. Like Cam said with his final statement, you don't want a movie that's going to be just a rehash of a rehash of a rehash, which by definition a movie that's Groundhog Day does in itself. It's the definition of the movie. And like MARKEIA says, it needs to complete a trilogy, but when you have people online asking for 28 months later, it won't complete the trilogy because we're still waiting for 28 months later. Where is 28 months later? And there's already a lot of anachronisms just happening with the connection of the two movies for me. We need a new X-Men. There's no way the current X-Men can just lead into this current MCU. We know that. I know that. That's why we had to redo Spider-Man. Garfield wasn't that bad. Tobey Maguire wasn't that bad. They weren't that bad. It's easy
I'll
to
stand
see
for Toby.
It's easy to see the new Spider-Man and look at those ones and be like, whoa, what were we doing? And that's what I'm hoping to do with the X-Men. And it does fit because we have to find where in time we're going to plug the X-Men so it lines up with the rest of the MCU. And what better way than to do a prequel that takes place in the 90s that does something fun, because the recipe that Marvel has figured out that has made every Marvel movie good, that, you know, DC has had its troubles, is that they find a genre, and that's what they do with their movies. And they don't make a superhero movie. So that's why you would make The Breakfast Club. And it would come together, and then we'd smash cut to the future, and then we'd have Avengers versus X-Men after this whole Infinity War action.
Time. All right. Wow, that's a great round. You guys, I mean, I want to see all your movies, actually. So this is a damn hard one. Dan, what do you got over there factually, and thoughts on the round, please?
Thoughts on the round? Well, factually, I guess I'll just combine them. Like, there's mostly pitches, and there's a couple things here and there, but I think I'm going to go with Cameron, because I felt like he gave the best pitch as to why this movie specifically had to take place in the 90s. And I know that the prequel to 28 Days Later, there's a time element, but just in hearing the pitch, I still wasn't clear on exactly why, even though the 28 Days Later came out in 2003, why this one would be in the 90s. I was very fuzzy on the details and the timelines and how exactly it would all work together and what the time jump was and everything else. And I liked Iffy's idea about the X-Men, but you know, for me, it's more like why the X-Men needs to be rebooted and Storm being the leader. Like, those are all great ideas, but I felt Cameron was the one who's pitched the best movie as far as why it needs to be in that era, what is it going to add to the current series, how it bears on the bigger overall mythology and the story as a prequel/sequel. So My pick would be Cameron for this round.
Right on. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I really like Cameron's. I liked Iffy's too. Like, it really spoke to me. Although Breakfast Club, you kept bringing up Breakfast Club, and I love those parallels that you set. Like, if someone hasn't memed that stuff, they should. Judd Nelson and Wolverine, etc. But that's an '80s reference, so that, like, I don't know, that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit. Even though I was just loving your description of X-Men, so I don't know, I was kind of going around with that, and it came down to at the end with for Cameron and MARKEIA for me. I feel like I just didn't hear enough from Cameron. I feel like you just literally didn't like speak out enough about your idea, and I heard more from MARKEIA that kind of, I kind of want to see like a 28 origin story of the thing, and that's the one that I just couldn't stop thinking about. That gets my vote. So it's one for Cameron, one for MARKEIA. Let's go to Danielle to hopefully break this tie.
Nope. At 48%, we have X-Men. At 32%, we have Happy Death Day. And at 18%, 28 Days Later.
That was a perfectly timed nope, Danielle. Thank you for that.
Thank you. So, again, I agree with everyone. I want to see all of these movies. I want to see all of these pitches.
Yes, you're going to break the tie.
I'm going to break the tie because, for me, the 90s of it all, 80s, 90s, whatever, If's just too young. None of that mattered. I thought that he had a really compelling pitch, so I'm going to go with Iffy on that one.
Right on. Iffy, you take that point. Nicely done, sir. And Iffy, you vault into a 2-0 lead, a commanding 2-0 lead. We're moving to question number 3 with Cameron and MARKEIA looking to get on the board. All right. Oh, this is a fun one, and it's a lot of words. So I'm just going to read this.
I'm so ready.
Okay, so on Twitter, and you should follow all these funny folks on Twitter, by the way. On Twitter, Iffy alleged that he could fight a gorilla and win. Oh yeah, show him the goods. Show him the goods.
Oh man! Oh my God!
I think it was there was a football player who talked about fighting a wolf. Was it Arian Foster?
I
think it was.
I've raced a wolf IRL. I lost, but I'm not speed. I'm power.
Yes. So Iffy alleged he could fight a gorilla and win.
Strength to strength.
So we want to know which.
Hold on. I'm gonna cut that off just a little early because there were things that I said. I know. Gorillas are strong. I can't fight a gorilla heads up. Under the right constraints, if a gorilla had weights to weaken itself and it only had its, gorilla type abilities to go against me, strength to strength.
This was not part of the question when we were asked
Right.
about weights holding it down.
No. This is fighting a gorilla.
All right.
There's a whole other thing that if you don't think. Here's the thing: if you don't think Iffy could beat a gorilla, take that up on Twitter after the show.
No.
Man, your tweets,
don't bring your facts to this. Okay?
All right, so we want to know the question here. We want to know which non-powered, non-superhero, quote unquote, movie character would you want to help you take on a gorilla? And here's some gorilla specs. This is a lowland gorilla from Western Africa. It's 5 feet tall, weighs about 300 pounds. You're fighting it in the gorilla enclosure at the LA Zoo. It has eaten today, but only once, and it was several hours ago. So does that mean it's hangry? I don't know what that...
They eat fruits and vegetables. They don't eat meat.
All right, so you have the specs. You have where it's going to take place. What non-powered movie character do you want on your side to help you fight this beast? MARKEIA, start us off.
Yeah, well, the first thing that I thought of when I was thinking of non-powered movie characters, I was like, well, I'm not going to go human because I'm not going to put a human versus a gorilla because that's
bad.
freaking insane. That's just why are you trying to lose this match before
sounds
you
like
even
you
started
chose a
it?
way to cheat.
So,
It sounds like.
Wait till you hear the answer. Wait till you hear the answer.
Non-powered
I'm
movie
ready for her.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Non-powered movie character. I'm going for the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park, and for those is the with the rattling and the big frill and everything. The one that takes out Dennis Nedry once he falls off that mountain of
Remove
mud.
that point. She brought it up.
And the one who easily eats him, he's at least 300 plus pounds, kind of a thing. And the Dilophosaurus.
Is that Wayne Knight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in that role, it
Yes.
looks like he is. And obviously over 5 feet, and Dilophosaurus took it like that.
All right, the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park, MARKEIA breaking out the dinosaurs. Iffy.
Yo, okay, so since I was actually trying to, come up with a sane argument, and I was like, I'm not gonna.
Person.
Don't
All
worry,
right.
I got you
Well,
because
you'll have your moments to-
you're movie fighting against a Magic the Gathering character, and you are not ready for what I'm about to bring to this fight. Magic the Gathering player, not a character. Guys, I'm not Gideon.
Yet.
I chose
Yes.
none other than, and I got a whole reason, because I went with the
You
human
better.
and taking on a gorilla, as I've known, I think the only one at the table who's researched this greatly. And not only does it take power, not only does it take speed, it takes mental capacity and grit, which is why I chose John McClane. See, because boom, he's a divorced dad. He's a divorced guy, divorced dad. Once my wife finds out I'm about to take on a gorilla, I'm gonna be a divorced dad. That's 2 divorced dads coming together, and you can't stop 2 divorced dads. You can't. You just can't stop it.
The courts can.
Can that be my answer? Could the court be my answer?
No, there's no court in the gorilla enclosure.
The 2 divorced dads have been waking up in sweatpants for so long. And have so much pent-up aggression that they're ready to unleash. That after 2 divorced dads, and in this scenario, since we've set up a whole ass scenario, it's our weekend to take care of our kids.
Sure.
And we're in this group, and both of our kids got thrown in there. So now we have
So Jai Courtney and Naomi.
yeah. Both are in that gorilla pen, and 2 divorced dads ready to protect their cubs are ready to unleash upon this one gorilla. And we ate today.
Oh my goodness. All right, Cameron, what do you got?
All right, I tried to come at this also with logic and facts. First of all, you're gonna pick a dinosaur and you don't pick the T-Rex. Get out of here!
No.
My God, we're not fighting it. I gotta get my
Let him
answer.
get his final thought, his opening thoughts, please.
I picked Dutch from Predator. Not only can he blast people away with a gun, he's got that big old gun. That's not a superpower. That's just called machinery. Anybody can have that. America's got a problem. Secondly, Secondly, let's say he loses the guns, as he did in Predator. He's in the gorilla enclosure. What does he do? He muds himself up. Dutch is a thinker. Dutch is a guy who comes in with a plan. He knows how to lift logs, build traps. He took out a Predator. I looked up Predator stats. Predator had no problem pulling Sonny up a tree. Predator probably matches a gorilla for strength and probably more vicious. And Dutch took out a Predator. John McClane can barely take out the second boss in his movies. Al Powell shoot the old German guy.
Fight it out.
Al Powell had to take care of a lot of
both
stuff.
of you seem like you're really mad. They said non-powered movie character.
I'm
mad because y'all are
No. I want to point that out. See, because you're right.
You can
It's
stick with humans.
non-powered movie characters.
non-superpowered
So
movie
your
characters.
dinosaur. Your dinosaur, the Dilophosaurus, does not spit venom. That is something they added in Jurassic Park
Steven
in order
Spielberg
to be
created it.
included in this fight.
If we're gonna talk about real, that's
said without powers.
in this.
It's right there in caps.
He is non-powered, as in non-superpowered.
Oh yeah, Dan has something.
Actually, this is a movie character.
Thank you.
This is the Dilophosaurus from the movie, so even though it is scientifically inaccurate,
then she is disqualified by picking a powered movie character because that is not
a powered
dinosaur.
movie
We have
character.
fossils.
I mean, let's.
and there are rules.
I'm gonna step in real quick. You know what? Maybe John McClane in real life, if I stepped on all that glass, I would be down and out. So would most humans.
It was like down
He
for
cried in the bathroom.
The whole act. The whole movie.
Yeah, give me workers comp for like
he's a
3
dad. He
months.
stepped on
All right,
Legos before his feet are
okay.
strong.
For for this round. As Dan just said, the movies are canon. The movies are what we're counting. Please continue.
Thank you for saying so, because the Dilophosaurus was so lame. None of the movies even brought them back. Even in Jurassic World, the most like pandery film, we're like, that guy's lame. Get out of here. He only killed Dennis Nedry, a character that even nice John Hammond had to make fat jokes about. That's the only character the Dilophosaurus took out. You picked the weakest of the bunch. John McClane, he got some numbers. John McClane got some numbers.
Okay, back up just in case Dan was gonna shit in my lemonade. I had a plan. The Dilophosaurus,
As he is known to do.
the Dilophosaurus in the movies.
Shit in your lemonade. That's my job. I am paid to do it.
Are significantly smaller than the Dilophosaurus actually was. So that means you either have a smaller dinosaur that can spit venom and can barely attack because it cannot survive in the American climate.
You're not even doing movie facts right now.
That dinosaur is
Okay,
wheezing.
you know what? I'm
He
just
killed
gonna
Nedry because the
start
passenger
talking,
door
and
was
y'all
open.
can just talk over me. Dear God.
Please, Markeia.
Okay, so
Please.
to reference some of the points that were made, we're in the gorilla enclosure. I couldn't do a T-Rex because a T-Rex was too big. While the Dilophosaurus, while the Dilophosaurus does fit in that, and as you can see in like Jurassic Park, when it is standing up to destroy Dennis Nedry, it is almost near his height, and that is the movie character Dilo.
How tall is Dennis
going to look it up. So
Dan, how tall is Wayne Knight?
Average. Okay, so and with this.
He didn't play in Space Jam.
So you're saying Dutch. We're saying we're trying to overpower gorilla. You're bringing guns. You said that you would bring Dutch with guns. Shooting a gorilla, you can do that. Anyone can do that. Guns are cheap, and that's not something
and I
that
also
should
said
be in
without
with
the
this.
guns, he's got them traps.
But even with
And I
that,
don't mean-
you
I have
kept on
both. He's got
bringing up Predator. You kept on bringing up him being a Predator. Why didn't you just choose Predator?
That was going to be my argument too. Predator isn't superpowered. Why didn't you pick Predator? You should be disqualified for that bad choice.
Because
But
he
also,
died by
this is
Dutch,
90s
by the
Arnold
hand
Schwarzenegger
of Dutch.
to take out a gorilla.
80s Arnold
Communication.
Schwarzenegger.
80s Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know I don't know. I don't get time. I don't know time.
I don't.
It's a
get
flat
like,
circle.
It's
Just like the
interesting.
Earth.
It's interesting that both of you just.
AJ Styles.
Oh my gosh.
No, and it's like also another reason to have the Dilo is like because of the spitting venom, they paralyze and they blind, and what they don't do unleash that attack until it's like, yeah, okay, we've got this kind of a thing. So they would go up to the gorilla, and what's her name, Lucy, what's her name?
Wait,
so
we're naming
it's
the
like
gorilla?
we're gonna name her Lucy.
too personal for me.
So Lucy's over there.
Harambe.
Oh no. So Lucy's over there chilling, feeling a little bit hangry, and for some reason, we've decided to take down this gorilla, but we're not going to kill it because that's ridiculous, like with firepower, and we're not going to throw throw my divorced dad angst at it. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have Dilo go up, spit in his eyes, paralyzed, blinded. It's like, meh, meh. I put my foot on it, done.
This is
We
a
took
wild
down the gorilla.
If it's blind, it's going to swing those heavy ass swift fists.
And the
blindly.
Dilophosaurus with like its bite with how it went at Dennis Nedry, like you saw in that.
I'm going to show you a few gorilla videos. The speed at which a
So
gorilla
after
swings,
it's
that dino
blind
is
and
out.
paralyzed, it's either going to run away, which is winning, or it's like we're going to have
Cameron,
to.
I haven't heard a ton from you.
I want to stand by that. It's like, I love John McClane. John McClane is great. John McClane, though, consistently has trouble with 30-year-old balding German men, as we've seen in 2 of the
With
films.
guns.
And Dennis, no. That guy, they beat each other up. If you remember the long-haired blonde guy, that was a fist fight. John McClane
was
did not
after
do
a night
well.
after Foot on Glass.
Die Hard with a Vengeance is on the boat. John McClane did not do well until he grabbed the chain. The second one, he almost got taken down by Dennis Farina, Dennis Franz, Dennis Farina, NYPD Blue, that actor. He almost got taken down until he used the blanks. If the gorilla is not the main villain, John McClane is messed up. If the gorilla is the main villain, John McClane got a chance, but he's going to need Al Pal. He's going to need Holly. He needs those assistants. He needs Samuel Jackson as Zeus to come in and save the day. John McClane can't do it alone. He's supposed to be your assistant.
Let's get some final thoughts, Markeia.
So I'm trying to think of like the most effective and humane way to take down this Lucy to take down Lucy, and it's like, yeah, Dilo paralyzes and blinds Lucy. And they keel over, and the day is won. Well, it's like what does John McClane do? He gets on a walkie-talkie to you and just
He's in the
keeps
cave.
on. He has stories about his childhood, and you share your stories, and Lucy's just like beating on both of you the entire time, kind of thing. And then like with Dutch, I mean, honestly, I wish that you'd chosen Predator or like
Dutch killed the Predator.
He doesn't have the gun. It's still a human versus a gorilla, no matter what. It's Lucy's not going to play. She's going to take. Well, it's not the Predator. You said it's Dutch.
No, I know, but
Final thoughts, please.
Yeah. So with that, you're still doing dude against gorilla. I'm bringing a beast to a beast fight.
Bringing a beast to a beast fight around the horn to Iffy.
Okay,
Final thoughts.
so first off with the Dilophosaurus, you don't watch enough gorilla videos. Gorillas fight beasts all the time. We're taking out cheetahs. We're taking out things way faster than gorillas hit to kill. The moment the fist of a gorilla connects with your spitting, which by the way, if we are going in the movie, it takes about like a good 20 seconds before it spits the venom. The gorilla would have been knocked it out. And now you're stuck in a gorilla pit trying to peacefully calm it down. Dutch, we're talking about 80s Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this is a partnership. There's no way for you to communicate. There's no way you're understanding Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s. Also,
Carl Weathers did fine.
This is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who also is a Vietnam vet. He's got stuff going on, and he is all about preparation. That whole movie was him getting prepared. The thing with John McClane, he was thrown in a situation. He was there to party, maybe get drunk, try and get his wife back, and he was thrown in a terrorist situation and came out on top. That's the type of person I want on my side as I fight a gorilla. We're both kind of, swole-tastic, and if we're talking about using guns, he's a cop. We all know they shoot before asking questions, so it's over.
All right, thank you, Iffy. Cameron.
First of all, MARKEIA, your point about T-Rex was too big, Velociraptor could have brought him into the party, did not do so. Also the fact that, again, Dennis Nedry, probably the weakest human character in the entire film. Tim did better than Dennis Nedry, and he's a little boy. John McClane. John McClane, again, always needs a partner. I know you're sitting there going like, I could be his partner, but you want someone who can like really go toe-to-toe with the gorilla, not get so beaten up with their bloody feet and their balding head and they're crawling away, and then maybe you get a lucky shot into the gorilla. You're Al Powell in this situation. You want to be John McClane. That's why I'm going in with Dutch. Because at the end of the day, yes, you're right. It's like, why didn't I pick the Predator? Dutch took out the Predator. Give me the guy who can take out the Thing. Don't give me the Thing. And you're talking about humanely. Listen, I got a raging gorilla after me. I love animals. But I'm not against Dutch mudding up and hitting it with a log.
Time. All right, there it is. Dan, can you make some...
When is the gorilla raging?
Argument's over.
Dan, any facts or anything you can say to make sense of what we just did with
Nothing I
this?
can say to make sense of this, but I do have some facts. Let's get down to...
I have one fact. The Earth is not flat.
Okay.
Talk to AJ Styles.
I guess we'll agree to disagree.
Let's go back to the beginning of
Yes.
this. In 2017, Arian Foster, the former running back for the Houston Texans, claimed that he could take on a wolf, a wild wolf, one-on-one.
Yeah.
This is what he said partially. This is a long Twitter, but partially he said, I'm 230, wolves are what, 180, 200 tops? He has no thumbs. If I control his neck, grab his neck, he can't bite. I've studied the wolf. He can't read. I know
Why
his
is he saying
weaknesses.
everything I said about the gorilla?
Plus the thumb thing. He was very hung up on the fact that wolves do not have opposable thumbs.
Yes.
I want this guy to do a werewolf movie like Van Helsing.
So, going into this argument, there was a Dilophosaurus appearance in Jurassic World, but it was a hologram. It was not the actual dinosaur from the first film. Wayne Knight is listed at 5 feet 7 inches tall. I went back and looked at the scene. It's hard to get an accurate scale, but the Dilophosaurus appeared to be on its hind legs maybe 3/4 his size. It didn't look like a 1-to-1 ratio, but he definitely gained size on Nedry and it was a very broad dinosaur as well. So not completely dwarfed by Mr. 5'7" Wayne Knight. And John McClane did defeat Carl in hand-to-hand combat in Die Hard. He just failed to kill him. He then came back at the end where he got shot in the heart by Al Powell. So I wouldn't say he didn't do well in the fight with Carl. He just did not murder him. And he also did not fight Dennis Franz in Die Hard 2. While Dennis Franz was very annoying as the head of airport security, they did not have fisticuffs, so I don't believe that a John McClane should be voted down for not holding his own in a fight with Dennis Franz that did not take place.
He did push him and shoot him with blanks.
Dan, thank you for breaking it down, and I appreciate you going back and finding that Arian Foster tweet.
Sorry, one more thing. In Defensively Night, Dennis Nedry, Dennis Neardry, and Dennis Nidry were all set in this fight. It's Dennis Nedry. Dennis Nedry is the
Thank you, sir.
character's name.
First off, I love this fight. It was just like, I will never forget this third round of today's movie fight. And it was a lot of crazy shit was said. But MARKEIA, man, you said something in your final thoughts that kind of lost me on it, which was I want to do it in an effective, humane way. Like, it was like you have that choice. It is going to be all-out warfare in there. Like, an effective, humane way. Like, it's going to be that clinical. Man, I can't see that happening. It's going to be like, all right, if we can get that thing down. And then, I don't know, it's not that impressive that your thing killed Newman from Seinfeld. That's all I'm saying. Like, if you brought, like, that's the body count you brought to this party? Not impressed. So it came down to Dutch and John McClane, and like, man, I want the guy who's going to get mudded up. Like, the grill's not going to see him, and then it's like out of nowhere. It's like, wow. I don't know. I gotta go cam on this.
Gigantic bodybuilder in mud.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
He's gigantic.
The divorced dad thing had me laughing the most, but the mudded up, like, yeah, he's gonna come out of nowhere on that
You're
gorilla.
seeing two divorced dads come together.
In sweatpants.
I'm gonna take it to a night at Sharky's. Taco Tuesday.
All right, yeah. I'm up for it. So that's one for Cam. Dan.
When examining the tactics of this fight,
Yes.
I had to look at all aspects, and I agree. For me, it did come down to Iffy and Cameron, if only because while I respect the choice of the Dilophosaurus and I love that strategy, I feel like it's too luck-based because it's a projectile weapon. What if it misses? I do think that they brought up enough of a thing that the dinosaur, while it does have a strategic advantage, doesn't pose that much of a physical threat, or at least not as much of one, to this large beast. Nedry and a gorilla are very different animals. We're talking two very different things here. So I'm not convinced that the Dilophosaurus would handle it as easily as the two other choices. So it came down to John McClane and Dutch from Predator for me, and I've got to give the edge to the guy who knows jungle warfare. He's taken on a beast. I like the fact that Cameron brought up that the Predator is likely at least as strong, perhaps stronger than your average gorilla. I could not find any facts to back that up. And John McClane has struggled with, while he did not struggle with Dennis Franz, he has struggled with some Europeans who were definitely less strong than a gorilla. So I've got to go with Dutch. I've got to go with Dutch from Predator.
Cameron, you just took that point. Danielle, what are people saying about this round?
A lot.
Yeah.
Just a lot. But with 60%, the vote went to Dutch. 24% for the dinosaur whose name I won't even try to pronounce, and 15% for John McClane. A lot of people, I can't even quote all of them. The Twitter, the hashtag Movie Fights Live is so good. But I think one of my favorites was from our good friend Get Shitty, who posted the real winner of this fight and then a gif of divorce court.
This I do want to see now, because maybe I'll really examine this. If we do have a Nedry versus gorilla fight, and I could get some kind of strength comparison, then maybe I could be more swayed to the Dilophosaurus, because I love that strategy.
Wait, you want to see Wayne Knight fight a gorilla?
I need background information on the comparability of these two entities.
I was literally using it as like, because he was big. That was big like one.
He's
like, yeah.
He's
Still
a bigger gent. A bigger gent. All right, so that means Cameron and Iffy are moving into the speed round. MARKEIA, you brought it, and also you were super funny, but I'm sorry. But thank you for just entertaining and dropping some knowledge on us as well. All right, so Iffy is up 2-1 against Cameron. Speed round works thusly. I'm going to ask the question, call out your answer. The first one to answer will be able to elaborate on their answer first, 20 seconds, and then 20 seconds. Then we'll get 10-second rebuttal, 10-second rebuttal. Fellas, Y'all ready for this?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right, question 1 of the speed round. And Danielle will be chiming in with her own thoughts and opinions now. No time for polls in the speed round. Question 1. This week marked the 25th anniversary of the passing of legendary comedian actor John Candy. So, in his honor, what's the best movie featuring John Candy in any role?
JFK.
Please forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but I think I'm right. Trains, and Automobiles?
Yes, he
Yep,
is
okay.
in that film, absolutely. John Candy and Steve Martin. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, JFK. We heard Cameron first. 20 seconds begins when you speak.
John Candy was an American treasure of comedy, but the thing about JFK is JFK showed that he could do so much more. It showed what a tragic loss it was. Comedy, as time goes on, goes less and less. People will look back on certain comedies and feel that they've gone down in stature. Dramatic films, though, often will still stand the test of time. So that means John Candy within JFK was allowed to show that he had a large range and what we truly lost. We didn't just lose a great comedic mind, we lost a fantastic actor. And in that case...
Well, that's true. I think, the best way to honor someone is them for their comedy. As a comedic actor, it's great to see him nail a comedic acting role. And to not only be just himself, but next to Steve Martin, it's not only a great John Candy movie, but a great movie on its own. And I think that's something that makes it just overall one of the best movies.
I think both these films are films that are going to stand the test of time. I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, people go, oh, that's so great. I think JFK, people watch it, they think it's great, but I think John Candy's a surprise. I think that's a pleasant surprise you see, because sometimes you can forget that he's in it, because he's not on the poster. It's a Kevin Costner movie.
I believe that's true, but the real surprise comes in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles when Steve Martin blows up at him and you get that huge dramatic monologue from John Candy. So you're getting the best of both worlds in that movie, comedy and drama, which makes it perfect.
Ooh, all right. Danielle, what do you got?
Once again, great arguments. Everyone brought it, but I have to, and it was masterful for him to bring it into the last. So much of Cam's argument depended on it being a dramatic role and it being a surprise. If he was able to show that it's a movie where you both get to see John Candy at his best being a comedian, and you get to see that he can really bring it when it comes to the acting, gotta go with Iffy.
It's one for Iffy. Dan?
I thought that Cameron had a fantastic opening round, but if he brought it, nailed it in the rebuttal, which is that Cameron's argument was largely about how he was a great dramatic actor, and by bringing that into and mixing it with the comedy, I think Iffy got it for me.
Boom. Iffy takes that point. Well fought, both you guys. Oh man. But yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, one of the great comedies of all time. All right, Iffy is up 3-1. This is game point.
This is it?
Cameron, you need this to keep her going. Iffy, you take this. You take the game. Idris Elba will replace Will Smith as Deadshot in Suicide Squad 2. Which other movie would be better if you swapped out Will for Idris?
Oh, shit.
Ali.
Get ready for the spiciest.
Ooh.
Independence Day.
Okay. We have Ali. We have Independence Day. Cameron, you spoke first. 20 seconds begins when you speak now.
The big thing about Ali was the fact that it showed that Will Smith could be a dramatic actor. The problem is, though, is that it seems like there's been not a lot of good follow-up on that. Idris Elba has shown a great range of films, from Stringer Bell to something like The Dark Tower, which isn't great, but he's great in it. Also, he's actually a fighter. He is boxed on top of being a DJ and on top of being an actor. Idris Elba is extremely likable, and Ali as a person is just a completely different, interesting, complex person.
The thought that went into making this choice is not necessarily what would be the best swap out, because I'm tired of Viving people. I think I think it is about what will make a new dynamic movie, and it would be interesting to see Independence Day done by a completely different dramatic actor who does have the comedy chops, as you can see in his Netflix DJ movie. So that's why I chose Idris Elba, because to see him not only be...
I agree. That would be different and that would be interesting, but I kind of want to see Idris take on a big role. I feel like he's kind of been lost in a lot of different movies where he's just kind of the person next to a bunch of other people. That's what happened with Independence Day. It's probably what's going to happen with Suicide Squad.
This is true, but a biopic doesn't seem like the way to me because it seems like it just shoves someone in a role and makes them emulate someone who they're emulating for the biopic, whereas you get to see him carve out who is his main character.
Time. All right. Woo. Iffy, I really like what you said about like being tired of Aunt Viving people. That's like, not only is that a great line, but it's a great thought. But at the end of the day, I got to go with Cameron and Ali, and just seeing, because I feel Idris Elba is like a co-star or a supporting role so much. I'd love to see him helm or be the main guy. So yeah, I'm going with Cameron. Danielle.
Yeah, I thought these were both great points. I also agree with the Aunt Viving. I wished. For me, I didn't get to hear enough from Cam. I mean, obviously, it's great that Idris can box. We all know that actors do training for these things. It's not necessarily, look at the dude that plays Danielson. And he is likable, but I didn't, for me, hear enough about what he specifically brings to the role, so I've got to go with Iffy.
All right, 1-1. Dan.
I think they both made a great pro case, but what won me over was actually Cameron's argument that Idris Elba has been sort of lost in the shuffle in a lot of movies. This is a great showcase for him as opposed to being part of another ensemble with Independence Day. I thought that was a really good point, so I would vote for Cameron.
All right, Cameron, you're still in this thing. We're still at game point, though, so you need this to tie it up, Cameron. Here we go. Question number 3, the speed round. Angelina Jolie's Maleficent 2 will hit theaters in October. Which Angelina Jolie film should get a sequel first? Wanted or Salt?
Salt.
All right, Iffy, you get Wanted by default. All right, so we heard Cameron first. Cameron, 20 seconds begin when you talk.
Salt was an interesting movie made by an interesting director, Philip Noyce, who's done some of the Jack Ryan movies in the past. I'd love to see a sequel because that's actually an Angelina Jolie vehicle. Wanted, though, was really shoved with Angelina Jolie's sexiness was the selling point. It really was a James McAvoy movie. Her character also died in Wanted. So therefore, for Salt to continue on a spy thriller story, especially now, post-Russia, post all these other things, I think Salt is ripe to be made and come back into this world.
Cam makes a very good point, which is why a prequel featuring her character only would be great, because it now gives her the space to see how dope this character is. I read the Wanted comic, and her character is actually pretty dynamic in the comic, so it would be fun to explore this world way better than they did in the first one, now with her at the helm, and challenge those same things they were trying to do about superhero movies and superhero worlds.
I don't disagree, though. I kind of worry a prequel would actually be kind of disappointing, knowing where things go, knowing that she just dies at the hands of Morgan Freeman. For James McAvoy, at least with the Salt sequel, you can see where the world goes from here. What is a female spy in the world post-Trump?
The reason it's taken so long is because it's hard to think of a movie that rebuts that claim, because there is a movie, I just can't remember the name, but knowing that someone dies doesn't negate the fact that it's a good prequel, and post-Trump is so post-done. We've seen it so many times.
Time. Woo, boy. Man, I thought this was a really strong argument from both. Yeah, I feel like Iffy edged it out at the end there. I liked Cameron's opening, but I feel like I don't know, it just didn't jump out at me, your closing argument, and I thought Iffy made a great point. Knowing a character dies does not make a prequel bad. A prequel can be entertaining as hell that way. Dan.
I feel like Cameron really painted Iffy into a corner in his opening statement. And then Iffy parkoured up the wall and across the ceiling and out of the room, because that was a great dodge of a lot of really good points brought up by an opponent. And then I thought the rebuttal against even Cameron's rebuttal was also good. So just for great counter arguments and still being able to overcome a lot of negatives about your choice, especially one that you didn't pick, I'm also going to go with Iffy.
Iffy, you just took the game.
How's it going?
Happy movie fights. Well done, sir. Cameron, nicely done in that speed round. You made a hell of a ball game out of it.
Finally getting better at speed round.
Iffy, awesome job, funny, and yeah, well played. Please give some shout outs. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, definitely check out my podcast. I have Candy Dinner with my oldest friend Matt Apodaca, drops on Monday, and Nerdificent on Tuesdays. I'm on Twitch. All my Twitch heads. A few of y'all came into my Twitch and said they're excited. What's up, Nerdy Black Kid? If you're watching, what's up? Yeah, he's following me. So, but it's Ifdeez on Twitch. IFDEEZ, playing lots of Destiny 2 and Apex if you're into that, and lots of memes.
Awesome. Thank you, Iffy. Cameron, great stuff today.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us some stuff.
You can follow me on Twitter at Jurassic Alien. Also, go check out my photos, Cam Rice Photo on Instagram. And also, next Tuesday night, over at twitch.tv/HyperRPG, I'll be doing He Left It Dead 3. Joe Starr is going to be GMing that, so I'm going to be a cast member on his show.
Very cool. Awesome stuff. Thanks, brother. MARKEIA, always great to have you. And great work today. Please tell us some things.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MARKEIA MCCARTY. And if you have DC Universe, I'm on DC Daily. You can see that Monday through Friday. We have a lot of really great things coming up this year because it's the 80th anniversary of Batman. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of really cool things. Also, if you watch Collider at all, I was on Collider Movie Talk. We talked about the Hello Kitty movie, which is it was a very fun conversation. Two of us wanted to talk about it. One of us was like, no. So yeah, check out that on Collider. And I have a bunch of different things I'm going to be doing, like some live events and some live hosting. So please follow me on Twitter and Instagram and come out to the events.
Hell yeah. Thanks, MARKEIA. Let's go over to the Dan Cam. Dan Murrell. Dan, thoughts. What's going to win the box office this weekend?
Well, Captain Marvel, obviously.
Oh, yes. There you go.
Easily going to win the box office. It's just how much is the question now, which will be very interesting to watch. The
what's the $100 million range you're thinking? What are you thinking?
Well, they're forecasting somewhere around $100 million. I think we'll have a good idea tonight when we see what the preview grosses are. But I don't know. It's the opening weekend is important, but I feel like if it's less than $100 million, a lot of people are going to write it off as a disappointment or whatever. But the track has been all over the place, so I don't even know what to expect from it.
Right on. Right. Thank you, Dan. Danielle Radford. Thank you for just enlightening us and just being entertaining and wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And I want to give a big shout out and congratulations to Cam for getting his first 2 points ever in a movie fight.
Halloween edition, me, Clark, and Emma. I almost beat Clark.
Oh, did you?
That's right.
That close.
See, you're covering the spread, Cam.
Yeah. I know. I am. What's a good sports team that's good, bad, good, good, bad, bad, bad?
Knicks?
Knicks. I'll take the Knicks.
Someone stole my sports team, so I don't have one anymore.
Oh, R.I.P. Seattle Supersonics.
R.I.P. the Sonics. But yeah, you can find me as per usual, Twitter, Danielle Radford, Instagram, Danielle_Radford, all those good things.
Thank you, Danielle. Please follow Danielle Radford. Follow everybody here. And hey, why not follow me while you're at it? At Hal Rudnick on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to hear some stupid stuff about movies and TV, I'll say it. I want to thank Billy Biz. I want to thank JTE and everybody here. Iffy, sorry about the chair. Hoot hoot, hashtag Our Nation. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.